Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Baseta in the 15-minute pool on ICC. Baseta is from Spain, and he's 1795. And I'll play knight c3, and we'll see if we'll get a Nimzo Indian. Nope, he transposes into the QGD. I always take on d5 against the QGD, the Queen's Gambit declined, because I think this line is promising for white. The exchange variation. Okay, so here with c6, usually it's indicating that they want to play this endgame variation after e3, bishop f5, and then queen f3, and subsequently bishop g6, bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, queen takes f6, g takes f6 leads to a queen's off position that, while probably good for, I'm going to play e3 against this, by the way, while probably a little bit better for white, is a little narrow, in my opinion, so I'm going to stay away from that. This is interesting what he's doing. Bishop f5. I kind of think queen b3 could be an issue for him here. I know I've seen this approach before. Queen b3, and he can't defend his b-pawn with his queen because he has problems on f6. So I think if queen b3, he's going to play b5, if I recall. I could go to d2 with my queen, but I don't like that as much. I think queen b3 is the move. And then after b5, I'll have to decide what to do. My plan with queen c2 originally was to develop my knight through e2 and possibly en route to g3. So I'm going to keep that option open. Yeah, I mean, here he has to play either b6 or b5, I think. Otherwise, his queen is overloaded. Like, normally he'd love to be able to respond to queen b3 with queen b6, but just not possible for him here. So if b5, I wonder if knight ge2 or knight f3 is better. That is an open question. Knight f3 is somewhat appealing because I can go to e5 and attack this weak c6 pawn. But then again, so is knight ge2, because with knight ge2 I can bring my knight to g3 and hit f5. I think I'm slightly leaning towards knight f3 though, because knight ge2 to g3 with my bishop on g5 doesn't have the same sort of sting, because if he were to ever play h6 at that point, I wouldn't be able to play bishop h4 due to g5, with my knight blocking it. Also, I'm just not sure that knight ge2 to g3 is that bothersome for him here when he can just play bishop e6 in defense. So he plays b6. Wonder if I have any tactics involving bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, knight takes d5. Probably nothing that I'd want to seriously contemplate, but it's worth considering. Okay, I'll just go knight f3. I'll send this knight into e5. I think c6 is going to be a problem for him going forward. So I want to direct my knight into a square that highlights that fact. Okay, h6. So I could take on f6, or I could just play bishop h4. No huge reason to take on f6, I don't believe. So let's go bishop h4. This position already looks sketchy in my opinion. I have a fairly normal setup, aside from my queen being on b3, but he's made some weakening pawn moves, like g6, h6. It doesn't make a great impression. So he puts the bishop on g7. I think I should still go knight e5 to preempt any development with this knight. So I will do that. And if he castles, I'll just play bishop e2. Preparing to castle short myself. I'm not looking too far ahead here. I mean, I'm just playing my position. I'm comfortable. I know he's going to have development problems because of this weakness. So that's all I'm really thinking about. I might have a vague plan of putting a rook on the c-file to further attack c6 once we head into the middle game. Let me check this guy's stats while we have a free moment. g5, I'll just play bishop g3. Okay, so yeah, this guy's played plenty of 15-minute games. Peak rating of 1992. So knight fd7 is probably a good idea because he wants me to exchange so he can get this other knight seamlessly into d7. I wonder if I trade, and he takes with this knight, if I can play bishop a6 then. Idea bishop b7. Wonder if that is a decent option. It looks very awkward for him. He can't cover the b7 square. I think that might win something. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take. Maybe he'll wise up and take with his queen here. Knight takes would be by far the most natural move, though. So bishop a6. What's he going to do about that? I don't think he can really do much. He has to make room for his rook to come over. This is really thanks to my bishop on g3. Limits his options. So yeah, we'll do this. b5. What? I can just play bishop b7 now, though. Oh, nah, that doesn't work. I thought for a second his idea might be bishop b7, rook b8. And then if bishop takes b8, knight takes b8, and my bishop's trapped. But if bishop b7, rook b8, I can just take on c6 if I want to. Yeah, I don't believe his last move is working. Yeah, he's at the crossfire with these pieces. So I can just take on c6, because yeah, I think I want to avoid bishop takes b8, knight takes b8, with some issues surrounding this piece. Yeah, let's just take here. Still keeping the option of winning his rook. Okay, I can win another pawn now. Take on d5. Better than taking on b5, because if I take on b5 with the bishop, he has a6. So we'll take here. I still haven't castled yet. That's the only bad side about taking a timeout to play bishop a6. But winning 2 pawns and otherwise decimating his center structure is most certainly worth it. I could castle here if I wanted. Could also just play bishop f3. I think I'll probably play bishop f3. If bishop f3, bishop d3, I can just play bishop e2. So that's no big deal. Yeah, let's do that. Bishop d3 is practically the only disruptive thing he can do here. If b4, knight a4 is good for me. Yeah, he plays it. So I'm just thinking bishop e2. If he takes, I'll take with my knight. It allows knight e4, but yeah, no worries. No worries. Instantly played rook to e8. Rook c1 is interesting, just because I'd be threatening bishop c7 then. Maybe I'll throw that move in before castling. Yeah, there's no downside to delaying castling for a moment. Position's very, very safe. He's never really adjusted his time management the whole game. Even when I played the bishop into a6. Like, he played b5 very quickly. Maybe he just looked at that one line. Bishop b7, rook b8, bishop takes b8, and didn't think about bishop takes c6. Who knows? But if he starts thinking now, this goes back to something I mentioned before in these videos. Like, it's so hard to think your way out of a bad position. You really can't do that. You have to spend your time proactively. Okay, here rook c5 looks strong, doesn't it? Rook c5 attacking his knight, and if his knight moves, bishop c7 is on the table again. So what does he do about rook to c5? I don't believe that a sacrifice anywhere is good for him. I'm very skeptical of that. Yeah, let's just do it. Probably knight f4 is his best practical chance. But it can't be good. If knight f4 and I take with the pawn, he could swing this rook over to e6, but I think even rook e5 there would be sufficient. He can't defend this knight any further. This rook d6 is met by bishop takes d6. Sorry again if my voice sounds a little bit weird today. Still recovering from this cold I've had, so it's been messing with my voice a little bit, just kind of stuffed up. Hopefully it's not too bad. So knight f4, yeah, I'm just going to take it with the pawn. I mean, I could take with the knight or the bishop as well, but if I take with the knight or bishop, like there's a good chance he's going to win d4. So I think pawn takes is just good. I'm expecting rook b to e6. He could play bishop takes d4, but there's rook d5 or rook f5 or something. He takes, actually. Huh. Well, I was just going to take this way. What is his idea? Bishop takes, queen takes d4, but I have bishop e3. Yeah. This helps me a lot, actually, because if rook b to e6 now, I just have bishop e3, solidifying the position. The only thing that might be of some concern is, like, let's say rook b to e6, bishop e3. Maybe he can play bishop takes d4. He'll probably have to. It's like his only chance. Trying to exploit the pin on the e file. But if rook b e6, I can also just as easily play bishop e5. That's probably the better move. Or rook c2. Plays bishop takes d4. Yeah, rook c2 should be good. I can also play bishop c7 again. I have this option available too. Bishop c7 looks a little complicated, though. I don't think I want to mess around with that. What about rook d5? Rook d5 is good. Rook d5 should be sufficient. Rook d5, queen e7. I could just castle there. And if he takes on e2, I take on d4 with my rook. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Rook d5, queen e7. I get to castle. If he takes e2, I take on d4 with the rook. There's no back rank threats or anything. Yeah, I think this move checks out. Rook takes e2 is not working, is it? Nope. He could play queen f6 in this position. Somewhat forgot about that move. Yeah, queen f6 is a little bit annoying. I don't know if I should have allowed that. I'll probably just play bishop e3, though, if he does that. Yeah, that was a little sloppy to allow that move. Oh, you know what I can also do here, though? It doesn't quite work, but I could play rook takes d4, and then if queen takes d4, just go bishop e3. But he can put his queen somewhere on the e-file, and I would be unable to take the rook on b6 because of mate on e2. Yeah, that position would be very good for me. If queen f3 here, he'll double up and attack my bishop. So I'm looking at mainly just bishop e3 or rook takes d4. Rook takes d4, queen takes d4, bishop e3. Let's say queen e5. I'd probably just castle there. That position is winning, but I'd like to keep a little bit more material. Yeah, I think just bishop e3 is the easiest. Force him to trade the dark square bishop. Have to watch my time a little bit. Another long think or two, and I might be in some time pressure, which is the last thing I want when I up a piece and I know I've been winning for the last 10 plus moves. He has to take, yeah, so I'll just take. That's expected. I was thinking about playing just rook f1 here. Rook f1 maybe gets a little messy in view of queen h4, so maybe rook d3 is better. Just defending e3. Seems slightly safer. Let's do that. No reason to allow him like queen h4 check, take on h2. Still not sure how I feel about rook d5. I mean, this is completely winning too, so maybe I was being a little hard on myself, saying I shouldn't have allowed queen f6.
Check.
Yeah, he gives a check. I'll probably just play g3. Knight g3 is also good. Yeah, maybe knight g3 is even better. Knight g3, and then I can castle next move against almost anything he plays. Yeah, I like that a little bit more. And castling will be very nice, because even if I lose the e3 pawn, there's pressure against f7 too, when my rook joins the attack with my queen there. Queen f6 or rook f6 is his only way to mess with my intention to just castle. Probably rook f6 is his best chance. And he plays it. Queen d5. What else? Queen takes b5 is just good too. Just attack his rook. Yeah, sure. More material. I don't need my queen on this diagonal anymore. So the only thing preventing me from winning this game is just my king safety. That's about it. So he'll play rook e7, rook e6, one of those two moves. I'm pretty certain. So I'm just using this time to figure out what I'll do against those. I want to get this rook in the game. It might even be just worth it for me to play rook f1. even if it means like losing the h-pawn. I'm already up so much. Like, losing the h-pawn is not going to kill me. So I think I may do that on either of the moves he throws at me. Yeah, I think I will. Rook e6 he plays. Let's go ahead and play it.
Check.
Yep, takes on h2. So what is rook d8 check doing? Looks pretty good. Rook d8 check. If king g7, knight f5. Is that at all getting messy? Queen b8 also is nice because he'd have to play king h7. King g7, knight f5. I'm trying to calculate a win when maybe I shouldn't be. But it feels like I'm close to winning this position. Yeah, I think rook d8 is good. I'll do that.
Check.
And if king g7, I have knight h5, I'm noticing. Yeah, that wins. And if king h7, I have queen f5, which also wins. He's probably noticing the drawbacks to both moves right now. Yeah, so that one I have this move.
Check.
And if king g6, I have knight f4. Or even just rook g8. And if king h7, queen f5, he blocks with the rook, I take on f7 and his mate next move. Yep, plays that one, so I'll give a check here.
Check.
I could go for the artistic mate too. Rook g6, knight f6, king g7, rook g8. I think I'll do that one. I like that one more. Yeah, he resigned. Okay, let's have a look. Very unusual to see a queen QGD that comes about via this move order. Because in my mind, the whole point of this move order is to get into the Nimzo Indian, which, statistically speaking, is a better choice than the Queen's Gambit declined. It scores better for black. So it's kind of weird. Like, I don't know what the point of playing this move order would be if you're just going to go back into the QGD. But might avoid a couple systems. So I like this exchange variation a lot, which I've talked about at length in my videos. The normal move is bishop e7 in this position. c6 is interesting. The point is that black wants to play bishop f5, but bishop f5 right away would be bad in view of bishop takes f6. And if the queen were to take, then the c-pawn, or the d-pawn rather, would be hanging. Queen takes f6, knight takes d5. And if g takes f5, I have queen b3, hitting both of these. So the point of c6 is to be able to play bishop f5 without worrying about the health of the d-pawn. So the endgame line I was referring to is e3, and then after bishop f5, playing queen here. Because the general rule of thumb is that if black is able to play bishop f5 successfully in the Queen's Gambit declined, then they usually have a pretty decent position. They've solved the problem of their worst piece, which is their light square bishop, and an exchange of bishops like this is well known to be completely fine for black. A lot of games have shown that. So queen f3 attacks the bishop, and it would force him back, so bishop g6, and then I would have taken. Queen takes f6, queen takes f6, g takes f6, and we have like an endgame variation that is pretty interesting, I think. White's better, but Black has interesting play, especially if Black has studied this line. So I opted to play a different move, Queen c2, trying to stop Bishop f5. And I don't think he should play g6. It seems a little weird to me. I think he might want to just play Bishop e7 and try to go back into normal QGD territory. But he did this. And then e3, Bishop f5, so he's trying to force the bishop there. But now Queen b3 is awkward, because like I said, he can't play Queen c7, Queen b6, or Queen c7 because I have Bishop takes f6. So now he has to make a weakening move with his b pawn. The only other choice would be like Bishop c8, but that looks like a complete reversal. So I think he might want to play b5. I think that might be slightly better than b6. At least it's more aggressive and clamps down on the c4 square. I think I've seen a game actually with b5 before in this position. So instead he plays b6. I just play knight f3. I do like the route knight f3 to e5 here more than knight e2 to g3, which is also commonplace. Because I think attacking the weakened c6 pawn is better than trying to inconvenience his light square bishop. He played h6. I just moved back and jumped the knight into e5. And now bishop e2. I prefer this over bishop d3 because if I were to play bishop d3, for one, I'm allowing him to exchange his light square bishop. And two, I'd have to withdraw my knight from the center. And I would no longer be attacking c6. So bishop e2, and he went g5. So very original structure for Black. Doesn't really even resemble a Queen's Gambit declined, doing h6, g5, fianchettoing the kingside bishop. So here, this was the turning point in the game. Knight fd7. His idea is good. Like, he wants to be able to get this knight into the game without losing the c6 pawn, because if knight bd7, I would take on c6. But after knight fd7, knight takes, it seemed like he just wasn't conscious of the bishop a6 plan. If he was, he probably would have taken with his queen, I'm guessing. But then I just get to castle, and white's very comfortable. He still has to solve the development issue with this piece. Nice advantage to white here. Clear advantage, I think. So let's just see if I'm correct about this, but I think my position is much, much better. Probably winning after bishop a6. Like, that seems kind of a lot to say, like winning here, but it really looks good. Maybe c5 or something. Something dynamic to try to open his dark square bishop up. That might be his only chance. But let's see what the engine says. Queen e7. Oh, okay. I think I see why. Yeah, that's interesting. So if queen e7, I guess the point would be that if this, he has knight c5. I did not see knight c5. So disregard my conclusion about white having a close to winning position here, if not winning. Queen e7 would have been a good move. Yes, I still have an advantage after this, castles, mainly because my bishops control so much territory, I think. But yeah, I didn't see that knight c5 idea, nor did he, but that's interesting. And that would give him time to like bring one of his rooks over. If he can make way for his rook to come to like d8 or e8, then he's not as in trouble as he was before. What about c5 too? c5, queen takes d5. Okay, that hits the bishop. That also looks pretty good. Bishop e6, queen d6. So maybe I was a little rash to say that this was like crushing for me, but it did demand an accurate response and appreciation of a resource, the knight c5 resource. Otherwise, it was rook moves and I win c6 and then I win d5, domino effect, as happened in the game. But here, I mean, he has 12 minutes, 28 seconds. I don't think he really saw bishop a6 coming. You gotta take time if you're Baseta here. Like, you gotta readjust and take some time. Like, let's see how fast he played b5. 6 seconds. I mean, that's giving points away, basically. I mean, unless this was his intention in advance, but the way the game played out, I don't really think he was anticipating bishop a6. And even if he was, he might want to take, at least 30 seconds to check his conclusion. Because after bishop b7, rook b8, I'm not obligated to take here. If I was, then knight takes b8 is a little less clear, because this bishop is somewhat trapped. But yeah, simply taking on c6 is already game over, basically, as long as I'm careful. Here I am comfortable in saying that it's game over. As long as white doesn't blunder. And I'm +3. I'm up 2 pawns. Yeah, queen d1 would have been a good move too, wouldn't it? To kick the bishop out. He's trying to stop me from castling. I mean, he's really already in desperation mode at this point. He has to be, because normal play will lose for him. I thought he was going to play knight e4 in this position. He did this. Yeah, and I should have just probably castled here. I got a little bit fancy with rook c1, intending bishop c7. Well, that was not a diagonal line draw. But yeah, intending bishop c7. Objectively, this doesn't help his case at all, but at least it made it messy. Gave him a chance to get back in the game. I kept expecting him to play rook be6 for the next couple moves, but he never did it. Yeah, rook e5 is good. Give back an exchange, but keep my 2 extra pawns, and I have bishop and knight. So that would be winning as well. Not much more to be said. I don't think there's going to be any surprises here. Yeah, I was too hard on myself about rook d5. This move is fine. I mean, there's no danger really after queen f6, bishop e3, so this is fine. Yeah. Rook d3, rook f1 was also good. Only reason I didn't play rook f1 is like I was unsure if he could go win this pawn, but
Check.
queen f4. Okay, queen f4 is possible to hit this pawn again. I didn't actually see that move, but looks like it doesn't lead to much. I can always probably just do this if I needed to. My king has to hang out in the center. It's not going to adjust the or reflect the ultimate result of the game as long as I'm careful. So he went rook f6. I just took on b5. Yeah, rook d8 check would have been good here too. I just chose rook f1.
Check.
White's advantage is growing every move.
Check.
Yeah, and this is just winning.
Check. Check.
Yep, and he resigned before I could mate him. Either with queen takes f7 and queen takes g7, or
Check.
the one that I was probably going to go for like that.
Checkmate.
So, yeah, another game where I think my opponent could have benefited from using his time a little bit better. Like, he landed himself in a lost position when he still had over 2/3 of his time left. Well over 2/3 of his time left. He had like 12 minutes, 20-some seconds. So, at any rate, hope you guys enjoyed that game, and please leave me any feedback in the comments. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back tomorrow with another standard game. Bye.